Hey guys, how's it going? Like Butter here, and it has been a super long time since I've done a video. I apologize. I just really haven't had too much desire to do YouTube videos because I don't really have much to talk about. I've kind of over the last 2 years really just dedicated this channel to the division, and there really hasn't been anything I really want to talk about until today. Now, some of this may be old news to you. But I want to talk about the pre-order bonuses and the different packages that they have available for Division 2. I was going to make a video on this the day they announced it. But I think emotions were running really high. I put out some tweets talking about how I was really disappointed with the way that Ubisoft is monetizing the Division 2, which we're going to talk about. And I have a very close relationship to Ubisoft. Ubisoft has become one of my favorite publishers, companies, whatever you want to call it, over the past couple of years because of how consumer-friendly they have been distributing their games. A couple other companies which I will not name because there is no point in that. It doesn't do any good. Have really done some aggressive, predatory actions to try to get as much money out of people as possible. And I like that Ubisoft hasn't been doing that the last couple of years. They've kind of turned into the most consumer-friendly company that is really out there now. And when I saw the pre-order bonuses for the Division 2, I was pretty disappointed, and we're going to talk about that. But after, giving it a couple weeks and kind of really calming down and doing some research about how other games have been monetizing their games, because obviously over the last, 15 years, games haven't gone up in price. It's probably even been longer than that, 20 years? Ever since, I think the N64, games were $60, and that's just how they were. Actually, N64 games might have been a little bit cheaper, I'm not sure, but just put it this way, games have been $60 for a very long time, so I understand the cost of development has gone way up over the past 15 years, because instead of having teams of 25 or 40 or 100, there are studios with 1,000 plus employees, which puts up the cost of development. And I understand that. So there's obviously got to be some ways to monetize outside of the $60 that you would spend. And The Division is a game that I got my money worth times 1,000, honestly. I have over 2,500 hours in this game when you put together the PTS and the regular, live game. And, I don't regret spending as much money as I have on the Division. I think total on the Division 1, I've spent probably, I don't know, maybe $150 when you take into consideration the skins and the loot boxes and all that stuff. I spent $20 when the loot boxes came out. And I've got my money well worth. And it all depends how much value you give your time and how much money you're willing to give to, each, hour of entertainment that you get. There are games that come out that are single player games that, you play through it in 7-8 hours and people feel like that's worth $60 to them. So, it's all different. When you take into consideration that I have 2,500 hours on a game, that is so many hours of entertainment. And because of that, I really look differently at how they're monetizing the Division 2, and I dislike the way they're kind of splitting up the community, but I also understand that, making games costs money, and they got to make some money too, and it's a business, and I get that. So I'm trying really hard in this video to kind of look from both perspectives. Now, let's talk about the different editions you can get. I actually have it pulled up here on my other monitor. I will put a link in the description to the different editions that you can pre-order. I highly suggest not pre-ordering because I just tell people never to pre-order games unless you are 100% sure that you want it. Now, if you're a huge Division fan, obviously you're going to pre-order it, right? But I always tell, people the general idea behind pre-ordering is just not good, in my opinion. You're buying into an idea. I would wait until it gets a little bit closer to release to see what the game really has to offer. We haven't really seen a lot on the Division 2. The things that I have seen have been really good and positive, and I was really happy with the way that they, did away with the season pass, although there is technically a pass, but all the content is going to be entirely free, but it's time gated, and that's what we're going to talk about. So there's different versions of this, and it's all super confusing. I don't expect you or me or really anyone to understand how many different versions there are, and this version gives you access to this thing and that thing. It's all very, very confusing. I wish they made it more concise, down into like maybe 2, maybe 3 different variations of pre-orders. Maybe like Gold Edition, Ultimate Edition, Standard Edition. Boom, done. But there are like a stupid amount of things you can get. So the first thing on this list is the Dark Zone Collector's Edition. This gives you the full game. It gives you the Dark Zone Limited Edition box. So if you're like me, no idea what the hell that means, but it'll tell you. The Heather Ward statue by UB Collectibles, the Art of the Division 2 book, blah, 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 world map. You get additional digital content, 3 days early access to the game. This is one thing that I do not like, because when you time gate things, especially when it's the full game, it's very, it's kind of a dark area, like a gray area, right? Where you understand, like, you want to pay more and get the game early. That's cool. It's a way to kind of reward the people that want to support the game more. But at the same time, if someone wants to pull out their wallet and pay $60, which is full price for the game, they can't even play it for 3 full days. And a competitive game like The Division, you may not think of it as a competitive game, but it's a very competitive game. Everyone's kind of racing to end game, trying to get loot, as fast as possible. Everyone's sharing what their loot drops are, and hey, I got this, and this does that. And it's kind of like this experience where whether you're talking to your friends or you're in a live stream or you're, watching videos, everyone likes to have that, like, be in that race to end game, right? Where you're trying to, get the best loot possible. In looter style games, like RPGs, people are always racing to the end, right? Like, it's just that really exciting part of when a launch comes out. And when you're holding people back 3 days, even when they're paying full price, I hate when people say that, like, paying more is getting you access to the game early. It's really not. All they're doing is they're locking, because the game's going to be finished, right? So they're basically locking the people that want to pay full price but don't want to pay the extra money for free content, which we've been promised. That's kind of where I think it's a little bit wrong, because they're holding the game back. They're not, giving you access to it early. Now, I do know there's some positives to this, because there will be less people on launch, which will kind of ease the servers in a little bit, easier, instead of it just being like, boom, it's live, and have servers crash and have a bunch of problems. So there will be some good things to that as well. But I've never been a fan of time gating content, especially if it's the full game. I know a lot of different games do it, but I was hoping that Ubisoft would be a little bit different here. I think, giving people who want to pay more money. And by the way, this is coming from someone who will most likely get a review copy, right? So, I'm not talking about me. Like, the money's not the problem for me, but I know there's a lot of people, like, you got to realize when you're promoting a game, and The Division is my favorite game. Like, it really is my favorite game of modern time. It's hard to sit there and just tell people, you want to spend full price on the game. That's not going to get you access to the game for 3 days after everyone else who actually, took their wallets out and spent the money. So on top of that, which is, I think maybe even worse, maybe not, the DLC that was promised to be free for everyone is free, but there's a catch. You're not going to be available to play that content for a full 7 days. And I understand Siege has a similar, has kind of a similar system to this, but you got to realize Siege doesn't split the community, because it still gives you the map for free. It just holds back the operators, right? And you don't need to use those operators. You can use any operator in Siege and be successful with them. So you're just holding back the new operators. You're not holding back the full DLC. So, from what it sounds like, they're giving these story-driven content episodes an entire week early. There's going to be spoilers. There's going to be people who already, finish it. There's going to be people who are ahead in gear. There's going to be people who already know what happens. I just feel like it's going to kind of suck for people who don't want to spend the money on the year one pass, that they are going to have to pretty much just shut off the internet for an entire week if they don't want things spoiled. You know, now if it wasn't story-driven content and it was something like, you know, the Division 1 had, where it was more of like story or non-story gameplay where it was just modes and something, I don't think it would be that big of a deal. But with story content, I think everyone should get it at the same time. I really do. And so as much as I think it's cool that it's free for everyone, I think time gating it is a huge mistake. And I just don't think Ubisoft needs this type of backlash when it comes to the Division 2. Like, they had everything going for them. They have the most beta signups in Ubisoft history for the Division 2, if you don't know that. And everyone is just super excited for this game. And, you know, we were told that the DLC was going to be free, but then, like, you know, a month later to a month and a half later, however long it was, we get told, but there's a catch. You know, if you don't want to spend the extra money on the free content, you're not going to get it a week early. So, I kind of have mixed feelings about this because I'm super excited for the Division 2. I think the Division 2 is going to be really good. And I know that this decision isn't, you know, from the developers at all. And it sucks to see that literally the only possible thing that could go wrong with the Division 2, in my opinion, is if they try to monetize something like this and get greedy, when I just don't think it's necessary. Like, you want to sell, you want to sell skins, you want to do that kind of stuff and go the cosmetic route, I'd be 100% okay with that, 100%. But when you split up content and you lock people, like we learned in Julian Garrity, he is the, you know, the big boss of Massive Entertainment. You know, he even admitted that, you know, Survivals, if you don't know, Survival was a game mode in the Division 1, probably the best bit of content that the Division ever had. It was hindered by the fact that it was time gated for PlayStation 4 players for an entire month. And to see him say that and admit that, and then we find out, like, you know, they're time gating not only the DLC, but the full game, it just kind of made me feel wrong about it. Like, I can't get excited for that. I can't recommend that because splitting up the community in a looter-based game is not good. Like, I can't wait to read my chat and see, oh, the only reason you were raid ready is because you had the game 3 days early, or you are wrecking people in PvP because you had the game 3 days early. Like, I just think they have to be very careful with the way they do this. Now, if they only allow like a certain amount of content to be played in that early 3 days, that's different. I think that's good. I think that's a good way to do it. You know, make it so that, you know, you're locked at level 15 or something, and don't let people go past that. So if people want to go and, like, you know, fight in the Dark Zone at level 15 or something 3 days early, that's cool because people will get a look at the game. But you won't have people, you know, at end game, you know, before people even have the game. I think that's fair if they do it that way. And I think that will be a really good thing for people who aren't 100% decided on the game yet. Maybe they want to, you know, see streams or YouTube videos first and get the general, you know, consensus before they, you know, pull out the wallet and spend the $60. I think that's a little bit different. I think they need to do the same thing for the DLC. I think they need to make sure that the DLC doesn't, you know, give players a whole bunch of content. Like, don't unlock the entire thing for people early. I just think that's a bad idea. But like I said, you know, there's different versions of this. You can, you know, pre-order the Phoenix Shield Collector's Edition. There's a, you know, there's a Dark Zone Collector's, there's an Ultimate Edition, there's a Gold Edition. There's just so many different versions of the game. And, you know, I hate that some of these things give you the access to things early. But what really upsets me, even more than this, is the fact that you're going to be able to get more stash space if you buy the most expensive version. So it says here, the Phoenix Shield Collector's Edition, which is a Ubi Store exclusive. It tells you get the Division, you get the Phoenix Shield Limited Edition box, you get blah, 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 world map, all this stuff. And then it says additional digital content, 3 days early access. You get the Battle Worn Secret Service pack, including the Secret Service outfit, rare quality emote, you know, exotic quality M4A1 skin. All that stuff is cool. Give skins, give outfits, give, you know, like Destiny has like transmat effects and like emotes, and you want to give emotes, that stuff is fine. the people who are going to buy the most expensive version of the Division 2 are going to be people who just want to support the game because they want to support it, not because they want to feel like they need to get more out of it, you know? Like, getting skins and other stuff is just a plus. And the thing that bothers me the most is it says here at the very end, additional stash space. I hate that. I hate that so much, because stash space was such a huge problem in the Division 1, and it was an ongoing, you know, conversation that was happening from patch to patch to patch, where there just was not enough stash space, and they had to keep adding more and adding more and adding more, because in a looter, the most precious thing is stash space, because you're collecting loot, especially with the Division, when you have gear sets and different builds, and you have tank builds, and you have DPS builds, and you have skill builds, and there's so many different versions of builds that locking players and forcing them to buy the most expensive version to get stash space, I think is wrong. Like, you see that in a lot of free-to-play games because the game's free-to-play, but actually locking stash space behind a paywall when you already spend full price for the game, I do not like that idea at all. I don't like the idea, because either they're going to give way too much stash space or they're not going to give enough. So it's a lose-lose situation. So I think the only thing that's got going for it is, I think most people who buy the most expensive version aren't going to be buying the most expensive version just specifically for the stash space. If they do that, they're going to be either disappointed, or it's going to feel like the norm, and the people who don't spend the money are going to be disappointed. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation. I wish they had never mentioned stash space. Stash space should be 100% the same for everyone. And so overall, I'm still super excited for the Division 2. I think it's worth pre-ordering if you know 100% what you're getting into. I do hate the time gating, and I really, really despise the fact that they're going to be giving people more stash space just because they pull out the wallet. You know, if it was a free-to-play game, it'd be completely different. It's not a free-to-play game. It's a full-price title. So anyways, those are my thoughts about it. A lot of people have been asking me what my thoughts are on the, you know, the pre-order bonuses and different versions. I'm excited for the Division 2. I think the Division 2 is going to be really good, and I think the only way that this game could get any bad press right now is if they make some really greedy decisions like this. And let's hope that Ubisoft either changes it or does what I say, where they, like, you know, give it a lot, like basically lock the content after, like, you kind of like they did with the beta with Division 1. If you remember the beta, they locked you at, like, you know, level 7 or something. So just let people go crazy with it, but lock people at like level 15. You know, don't let people get to end game before the game's even out for people who only want to spend full price. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, everybody.